Hi there everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's really great to see you, and today we've got an interview, and today it's Fran Burke from Accurascale, and I'm really happy that he took the time to sit down with me and I got to ask him a few of your burning questions. So come with me in association with the channel sponsor Trainomatic, makers of DCC decoders and accessories, and let's see what Fran had to say. So a big hello to you, Fran Burke from Accurascale. I was just wondering, can you tell me a little bit about Accurascale and your role with them?
So we are obviously, as a lot of people probably know right now, a British outline model railway producer, and we've been in the British market now just under 3 years. And we were born out of a company called Irish Railway Models when a group of us came together, and we began making rolling stock models in Irish outline for double low gauge. And it's just really got out of control from there. We're obviously doing locomotives, wagons, and coaches, as we've announced already. And we're up to about 7 employees now, scattered across the globe between Ireland, the UK, and Canada. And we have a number of exciting models coming out in the near future. And obviously, we've delivered some already in double O and O scale.
I have to ask, with the current situation, we're living through very strange times, and how has the pandemic affected Accurascale with the development and supply of new models?
It's affected us in some ways, and in other ways we've been okay. So our office is currently closed, and we haven't been able to man phones, and that's been since March, and that's in line with the guidelines with the government here in Ireland, because our phones are monitored here in Ireland. We've been able to work from home though, and keep in contact with customers through email and chat and stuff like that. We've missed out a lot of, obviously, on shows. We do a number of shows in the UK every year. So our last one was Model Rail Scotland. So we were due to do Alexandra Palace, Worley, Great Electric Train Show, and we usually do the Demu Show. So obviously we missed them. We haven't been in contact with our customers. From a supply point of view, we've been lucky that we have a warehouse based in the UK that was able to comply with COVID guidelines and keep the supply of models coming out. So whether you bought direct or if you were buying through a retailer, we were able to supply our direct customers and our retailers with very little interruption. At the moment, we're pushing out our PTA wagons, and we can. There has been a bit of a slowdown due to COVID guidelines. There hasn't been as many packers, but it's just a bit slower. But we were able to maintain that kind of supply chain and get the products out to customers. So it's been slowed a little bit, but from a point of view, we've still been able to do it, which is fantastic. From a point of view of research, we had done a lot of research at the start of this year, just before lockdown, and it's just a stroke of luck between surveys and scanning and all that kind of stuff as well. We also done a couple when the restrictions eased before it came back in again there earlier in the autumn, which was great as well. So we've managed to kind of condense a lot of research into that we're able to work away at home on ourselves. But it has disrupted, obviously, that research element of it. And the other place it has begun to kind of disrupt more is actually in China. And what we're seeing is the factories have maintained production, as we've seen. But what we've seen as well is this kind of kicked in just before Chinese New Year. And Chinese New Year is just a huge thing in China where people go back to their families. And the people who make model railways tend to be migrant workers from other parts of China. So when the factories opened back up after Chinese New Year, there was restrictions, and they couldn't get as many workers back to the factories as they had hoped. So they're running on reduced manpower, which is why production has taken a bit longer, as we've outlined in a lot of our updates on projects this year. So that can be one of the elements why products are running late for a number of manufacturers. But that's what we've heard on the ground in China. Just a lot of the workers weren't able to get back to the factory because it was in a different part of China. And what we've also been seeing recently is we've been talking to a friend of ours who has a model railway company that operates on the continent, does continental outline, and he's been talking to his friends in China. He's been there back and forth a long time, and other factories who make more kind of household name high-tech goods have been poaching the workers from the model railway factories to work in their factories to be offering them more money. So the factories that are making model trains are actually losing a couple more staff along the way as well to get stuff in for Christmas in the European market and the American market. So kind of your high value items that tend to be like, say, computers, like tablets and phones and games consoles is obviously a very famous one that's come out recently. They've also bought up all the logistics from air to get stuff here for Christmas. So we would fly a lot of our stuff in, but the air between that and the pandemic, it's just gone sky high as well. So we've had to ship stuff on containers. That's the only way to get it out of China at the moment because a lot of that space is being bought up. So that's kind of, so there's all these kind of indirect ways that the pandemic has also struck people that you mightn't necessarily think of. But yeah, that's in some ways it's been okay. We've been able to continue working, and development models and stuff like that. But yeah, we've seen kind of some supply chains slow down due to obviously the troubles in the factories, and then also shipping stuff out. It's just a bit slower than we had hoped. But that's just make sure all our staff are safe who are working on packing goods, and we have to, our first concern has to be with the well-being and the safety of anyone that's doing any work for us. So that's important.
Good to hear that at least, even though there are a lot of difficulties, that products are still making it through, and hopefully as things improve, we'll see that pick up. But it's great to see that the wheels still turn and products are still making it through to the shops. I want to ask, what does Accurascale look for in a prototype in order to decide whether to make it as a ready-to-run model?
There's a number of different things, I suppose. Some of it's quite black and white, and we have to make a business case for everything we want to make, but we tend to be quite open about it. Some of the stuff is what we liked and we're interested, because obviously we're into model railways ourselves. So the PTA was one I pitched. I always wanted that in a wagon format, and I banged the drum for it, but we have to make a business case for it as well, of like, how many liveries did it have, how long did it live, how widespread was it used, how many of them were built. So we would do a lot of preliminary research on that, put in a document, and then every year we pitch our ideas in among ourselves, and we have a chat, and then we kind of shortlist which ones we want to do. So between the seven of us, we tend to have a wide range of interests, and they tend to get represented into a range. So while some stuff would make sense as a main range, we tend to maybe keep something back if it's a bit niche to maybe talk to a third party like Rails with the Class 89. We really want to do the Class 89, but we weren't sure would that work as a main range item. Well, let's talk to Rails of Sheffield, because obviously they like to do some really interesting and different models, and obviously that's where that kind of came out of. But from a point of view of mainstream stuff, we tend to look at hard facts, but also what we like as well, and then we distill it from there.
Accurascale have announced a wealth of new models from classes 37 and 55 through to the MDO, the MDV. How important is it as a manufacturer to keep bringing all new models to market, compared perhaps to re-releasing with new liveries and identities of older models, which maybe you've already had one or two production runs of before?
It's important to kind of strike a mix between the two, because when you announce a new model, you see all the excitement online and, the interest, and obviously in the magazines as well. And at shows, we tend to do announcements at shows. A lot of people get really interested, and it's like, oh, well, it's going to have this, it's going to have that. And it really grabs the headlines. And I think that is very important. And that kind of, sets your stall out of, well, we're going to do X, Y, and Z and new models and stuff like that. Reruns are also important, because some people, especially from our own point of view, they haven't heard from us, or they're still learning about us. We're obviously a very young company still, and a lot of people still don't know about us, and they tend to come in and it's like, oh, I missed out on the first run of that. So it's good for us that we can do subsequent runs, and we kind of try and mix that up a bit. And obviously, going back to your previous question of, how do you decide to do a model, what's very important for us is that's something that we can do multiple runs of, because that obviously helps us to keep the base cost down from initial price, that we can kind of roll in that tooling over. We get more value from that tooling over its lifetime. So it's important that you pick prototypes and stuff that you can do multiple runs of, because then that helps keep our purchase price, our retail price down for customers. So it's important to get both. New models always grab the headlines no matter what you announce, but we have to temper that between Obviously, what we've announced, and we need to deliver them now as well, as we've talked in some of our recent updates. We announced some models, and obviously that's been, hit by what's happened in China and the whole COVID pandemic here, around the world. And obviously, we've kind of outlined some of the learning curves that we've had as a new company as well. So we've been kind of more conscious not to announce as much new things this year. But we're announcing anything that we have a sample of to show that we've made real progress in it. So it's important to announce new models, but we, compared to last year, we actually tempered back a lot this year. And we feel the most important thing now is to deliver those models.
There are already models on the market of both the Class 37 and 55, and these are both models that you've announced and are bringing to market. What made you decide to compete against an existing product for both of these?
In the case of both the Class 55 and the 37, particularly in the Class 37, Garrett is obviously one of our project managers, I should say, and he had done a lot. He had done a lot of research, really interested in Class 37s, and the way he kind of sold that idea to us, he pitched the idea to us was, well, there's a lot of variants to Class 37 that have not been covered, and if you look at the range of Class 37s that we're doing, the Class 37.6 was never available in ready-to-run format before. Same with the original five we're doing. They have differences to the rest of the class. And the Class 37.4s that we're doing are the modern areas, so they're missing a window on the side, and there's other subtle detail differences around LEDs and stuff like that. And then the Scottish ones with car headlights had never been done in ready-to-run format before. And with the Deltic, we're obviously doing the big purple one with the white pack headlights. That's never been done in ready-to-run before. And preserved versions with high-intensity headlights. And it was just to kind of, while they were on the market before in different guises, it was that we can offer something different and additional to that. And that's kind of why we picked those. So I know a lot of people said, oh, why are we doing another 37? It's a kind of, the 37 is so broad that you can add these different variants that had never been done before. And they're almost like classes in their own right. Like the Class 37.6, there's so many differences between each locomotive. And we kind of went out and covered that. But they've been around for 20 odd years now. Well, just over 20 years now, I believe. And they just have distinctive personalities and are part of the modern railway. Same with the modern Class 37.4s. So it was just to kind of fill in those gaps in other people's ranges that they hadn't done before. So that's kind of a big part of it. So while people would say from the outset, oh, well, it's been done before. Yeah, but it hasn't got the variations. It hasn't done the variations that we've done before. And then the other element to it as well, and you'll see this particularly in the Deltic, is with more modern molding techniques and in China and the stuff that they can do now, you can kind of, I think what we're going to see is a deluge of new models coming. It's like a next generation. So while you'll see, the Class 37 and the Class 55 being redone by us, you've already seen stuff like the Class 25. There's a new Class 47 coming. There's going to be a new generation, and it's going to be built around things, offering better sound capabilities and chassis design for that, because that's what the market's demanding now. Like the amount of sound variants of our Deltic is actually more. We've taken orders for more of our sound variations than we have of our DCC ready ones, which is, when we talk to anyone in the industry, they say, well, it's usually a smaller percentage of sound and a great percentage DCC ready. We've actually seen the opposite. And I think that demand for, good sound system and to display, to capture that noise, and just the new DCC features that we're putting into them as well is another part of it that I think you'll see more and more. I know of kind of a couple of companies that are working on locos that right now you might think, why are they doing that? There's really good ones out there, and they will catch people by surprise when they come out. But obviously they feel like can add that extra value into it that's not in the current model. And I just think it's just going to be a new wave of models there again. And the most important thing, and the way we look at it, is it's not about replacing your existing locos. It's about what your next loco will be when you buy it. So you may have a fleet of 37s or Deltics or whatever loco it is. It's like, yeah, it's not about replacing them essentially. You might do that. You might feel, well, actually, I want to buy the newest one and I'll sell them. But it's about, well, what's my next loco going to be? I want to buy a new 37. I want to buy a new Deltic. I want to buy, and that's kind of where we look at it as well.
So do you feel that the market has changed in terms of wanting extra features that maybe older models have not been able to give?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I think, as I said, around the whole sound situation and where we've approached it from, a large speaker and a smaller speaker, twin speaker setup. We're putting stuff like ESU power packs into the locos, so to help with dodgy connections on the track or dirty track or anything like that. They'll keep going 9 or 10 seconds after they lose power. Lighting features has become a big one. I mean, on our Class 92, we have daytime, nighttime, and yard mode. It's 3 different light settings on it. And then obviously just those little detail things that weren't covered in main ranges before, like the Class 37.6 with its distinctive lights, like the Deltics that can run on the main line now with their high intensity headlight. People are looking for those little added features and just kind of, more fidelity, more crispness in the tooling and stuff like that as well. So it's just responding to what the market is demanding. And, it's always a risk to announce a loco that's previously been done. And, the Deltic was a bit of a risk for us, obviously. Kind of was our first loco, was setting our set for Accurascale, and it was setting our stall out. But, we've been absolutely rewarded and vindicated in the orders that we received. It's absolutely a huge amount of orders we've had from them. So the demand is absolutely there for them.
I also want to ask, Accurascale is a relatively new company. And have you found that when you're going up against some of the big established brands, how easy has it been to build up a following and a market share?
Well, when we came into the market, it was obviously a very busy and noisy market. You had obviously established brands that have been around for a long time, and ones that we were familiar with, we bought their models over the years. And obviously you had a number of new guys come in at the same time, like ourselves and Revolution and other companies like that. So it was an interesting challenge to kind of strike out and be a bit different. When we first started, we took out ads in the magazines, kind of just saying our name and not saying anything else, and banners on RM Web and all these kind of different little things and stuff like that. And we had done a lot of groundwork talking to the magazines and stuff when we first started, just to try and strike out on our own. And obviously we launched with a very humdrum, small 24.5-ton coal wagon. But we kind of started in a very humble way, and it's like, well, we're going to make a really nice wagon because that's what we're doing in the Irish market, and we'll see how that goes. And it worked really well for us, and we engaged with a lot of people online. We tried to make ourselves as personable and human as possible. We communicate through Facebook, we communicate on RM Web, we've done interviews with on YouTube and stuff like that before. And, the reception was fantastic and people really bought into it. And they could see that we had a track record with our Irish models, even though we only a couple of them at the time. But we had that kind of backing already. And the HOOs obviously sold out fairly quickly. And there was a real good appetite there for them. So it was just kind of doing our own thing, being personal, and just getting to know everyone and stuff like that, and obviously doing shows then as well. It's a big part of it.
Accurascale's done models in double O. You've done some really great models in O gauge as well. Are we likely to see any other scales or gauges from Accurascale in the future?
At the moment, we have no plans to do it, and we get asked a lot for N gauge, obviously, because obviously that's the other big mainstream scale. The way we approach N scale is that none of us were essentially N scale modelers when we came into this, and so that's why we've worked with Real Track and Revolution, because they had a background in N gauge. So we've done a stuff with Revolution that we do a double O version, they do an N gauge version, and we've done that on a couple of models now. So there's been obviously the Mark 5s will be one. There's the PFA that's coming from them, and the Semflow, which is coming from them, and there will be others as well. And then with Real Track, we've done the PCA with them as well. So it's allowed them to see, use their expertise, and obviously we work on them and we share kind of stuff like research then as well, which is, or they commission us to do it, whichever way it works, and that's worked quite well for us. So while we're not essentially making the stuff for N-Gage, we're making sure we're doing our best to offer those models in N-Gage with someone who knows the market better than us, who knows the scale better than us, and that's worked really well. So I can see maybe more of that in the future. But at the moment, there's no plans to do any other gauges at the moment.
The other thing I wanted to ask is that at the moment, the Accurascale range does seem to be very much more focused on the more modern end of the market. And I do wonder, are we likely to see perhaps a steam outline model in the near future from Accurascale?
We are very likely to see a steam outline model from us in the future. And I'll let you into a little secret that we've never said before. when we were launched the Deltic, it was actually our second choice for a logo. That was going to be our second logo. But what we wanted to launch at the time was the Thompson Pacifics. So we were actually going to go, our first logo was going to be big green steam logo. But we then found out that Hornby were working on it, so we pulled away from them, and we left it at that. But there is an appetite there, and there is an enthusiasm in the company for steam. Diesel and kind of a more modern era was just safer for us to begin with, because some of the guys who worked here, including myself, knew more about that. But we do have an interest in steam, and we've had someone join us recently who's really passionate about steam, and he's going to be working on some really good steam outline models. They just take a long time to get to market, but expect to see more of that kind of era in 2021.
I also want to ask, how long does it actually take to bring a model to the market from that initial idea that, yes, we're going to do this, to the model physically being available to buy?
Again, it can kind of obviously depend on a lot of factors, and we live in very extraordinary times at the moment. But if you were to take, from beginning to end, our record actually is the HUO. I think we delivered that within 12 months from idea to measurement to on the shelves. But we done really well, and there was no hitches along the way. Nothing had to be changed, anything like that. It was just perfect all the way through, which was great. I think from a wagon project, you tend to look between 14 to 18 months. And for a logo, you're looking about 2 to 2.5 years from beginning to end. Between testing, between research, between measurements, between tooling, between manufacturing, delivering, all that kind of stuff that you're talking. That's the kind of what we've found in our experience, what you're looking at.
It's also the case that production techniques have improved over the years. We talked a little bit about the reasons for bringing the 37 and the 55 to the market, because technology has moved on, production techniques have moved on. And do you find that there are certain models that now you would consider making that maybe even a few years ago would have been all but impossible without the advancements in the technology?
I think it's kind of possible to make pretty much any model. It's maybe if you went down to kind of really small stuff, like if you look at obviously the Hornby Ruston and stuff like that, would that have been possible 10 years ago, 15 years ago with motors and stuff like that? That might have been a real challenge. But I think anything else, it would have been possible to do it years ago. But was it viable? Maybe is kind of more the question. Production runs and demands from China have become smaller as the market becomes smaller. So whereas maybe you had to justify something over a large production run before, as that wouldn't make it viable. Now it's kind of come down where actually these more niche models, you can make a business case to make them. So if you look, obviously Hellion done a lot of the prototype diesels. That probably wasn't possible, say 10 years before they done it. But with kind of, production run sizes coming lower in China, it was more feasible for them to do it. And there was an appetite from the market there for something different and, quirky. Obviously, at the time, they were seen as quite quirky. So I think it kind of depends, obviously, on the demands of and that you have to fulfill with China, but also the market appetite as well. So I think it does change, but I think from a technological point of view, I don't think there was anything that you couldn't do 10 years ago from you could do now, unless it was something very small. But it kind of tends more on market factors and demands from the factory.
We've talked a little bit about the COVID situation this year and how it's affected everybody, businesses and the public alike. But Accurascale has been very much a strong force at exhibitions. You've announced products in the past at exhibitions. How have you had to adapt to be able to make people aware of your models and also to make your announcements? And have any of these changes actually been things that you think that you will continue with even once we do get back to some semblance of normal?
I think with announcements, obviously we've just done them online and then into the magazines. We tend to do a bit of fanfares at shows like Warley every year and announce a new model. Now, last year we announced KUA at Warley, and we announced the 37 earlier in the week, and that actually worked really well for us because we got built into the week of the show. And a lot of people came up, I need to talk about your 37, can I order one? And all that kind of stuff. So that actually worked quite well for us. So we might do a kind of, in the future, we might announce something the week of the show, but I think we will continue to do stuff around shows and maybe announce something at the show as well. I think, we've really missed doing the shows because we miss meeting customers and, modelers who have new ideas and people learning about us for the first time. And I think that's really important. And I can't wait for shows to go back. And we absolutely will go back when shows are back. And we can do so, obviously. And I think, I don't see us changing anything around that. Obviously, we would probably like to do more shows in the future. It's a bit of a logistics thing for the moment because we do come from Ireland to do the shows, and it's, we tend to do a lot of stuff either side of the show and stuff like that as well. So we tend to spend a week doing it, and they're hard work, but they're absolutely worthwhile because we get to meet people face to face, which is obviously very, very important, always very important. So from a point of view of doing anything different, I don't think essentially we will. I think we will go back to how we were doing it because it was working quite well for us. We did slow down on announcements this year because we felt, we need to catch up on ourselves more so than, we haven't got a chance to announce it. We have announced a couple of things this year online, like the HYAs, like the MDOs and MDVs, and they've been really well received. So, but I think, if we kind of just stuck to that and didn't do shows and everyone else was doing shows, I think we would lose out. I think it's always important to do shows, and I think just to get the buzz of shows and then the added excitement of new announcement is something that we'll continue to do.
And what's the best way for modelers to find out more about Accurascale products, and where would be the best place to go to be able to order and buy them?
Well, from learning all our latest news, if you do Facebook, absolutely like and follow our Facebook page. We're trying to build YouTube a bit more, but we're quite a way behind ourselves at the moment, Jenny. But we're trying our best. You get to look at me, unfortunately. So we're looking to do more YouTube stuff. We've put up updates recently of the Class 92 and the Deltic and a few others. Mainly in the What's New tab on our website. That's where you'll get all our latest news and project updates. We're active on RMWeb as well under our tab, so always drop in there. And if you want to learn about any more of our products, we offer an email newsletter that you can sign up to on the homepage of our website as well, and we send out all the latest news on our products there as well. So there's a number of different areas. We also do a bit on Twitter too, so give us a follow us on Twitter if you do Twitter too. But mainly the What's New section on our website, Facebook, RMWeb are the places to and our email newsletter is definitely places to get our latest news. And obviously all the magazines as well. We send out press releases to our magazines, so the news pages every month. And when it comes to buying our stuff, obviously we sell direct, but we have over 90 retailers now, and they're all listed on our website as well. So there's big model shops and there's local model shops. And what we try to do is give everyone a level playing field. So we try to look after our smaller retailers as well as much as we can, and give them every chance to compete. So check them out under our tab on the retailers on the website as well.
That's great. Well, look, thank you very much, Fran, for taking the time out to have a chat and to answer some of the questions that I've had for you. So best of luck. And I know we're working our way through really, really tricky times, but hopefully things will get back to normal. And I look forward to seeing you at the first of the new shows in the future. But until then, look, you take great care of yourself. And thanks very much for talking to us.
Thanks very much, Jenny. Look after yourself, and I hope you and your team and all your subscribers stay safe and look after yourselves too. And we'll see you very soon.
Well, a big thank you to Fran Burke from Accurascale for taking the time out to have a chat with us and talk a little bit about Accurascale and the products that they make. I hope you found that interview really interesting and informative. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and also you can go and check us out over on Patreon and help support the channel to make the videos that you want to see. But until next time, this is me, Jenny Kirk, and a big thank you to Fran Burke from Accurascale. You all take great care of yourself. Happy modelling. I'll see you next time. Bye for now. Today's video is sponsored by Trainomatic, makers of DCC decoders designed to be fully compatible with every manufacturer's locomotive. Visit train-o-matic.com to browse the full range and see what they've got suitable for you. I'd like to send out a huge thanks to everybody who supports me on Patreon, and an extra special huge thanks goes out to Anthony Kidson, Michael Churchwood, Anthony Hunt, William Wade, Wayne Johns, Offshore Allen, oorail.co.uk, Tepic, Michael Lockie, Helen Sink, Peter Bolton, Brian and Dorothy Mudd, Gary Lewis, David Quinn, Sparky107107, George Botterini, Andy Finch, Chris Moss, Robert Sears, MD of San Juan Model Company and Grant Line Products, Sam Yates, Dale Williams, and Mo Henry. Thank you. Without you guys, I couldn't do this.